Exercise routine methods. There are multiple different ways to handle out exercise routines. You got single set routines where you're basically choosing one exercise, going all out, for that exercise. If you're in a hurry, that might work appropriately. Multiple sets, you're doing obviously multiple different sets per muscle group. Supersets is when you combine two exercises together without resting. It's a level of intensity that can challenge you cardiovascularly as well. You could do it with agonists, like you could do, for example, you could do a squat and superset it with leg extensions, or you could do antagonistic type supersets where you do like a push-pull. You might do pull-ups and superset it with chest flies, and that's an example. Triset's going to involve a third set, so you got a tri-set. Going from one exercise to another. So it's a way to raise the intensity. If you're in a hurry, you want to get more done. That's a lot of times when I do supersets. I might do, especially antagonistic supersets if I want to get more muscles trained that day. My system's tired, but the actual muscle is not tired because I just train its antagonistic muscle. Pyramid routines is very typical of strength training. You're going to generally follow that with most anybody to a degree, unless they're starting out and they're doing 3 sets of 8 to 12 with the same amount of weight, allowing the fact that they're just simply not in shape. That third set is going to feel heavier than the first set because they're tired. But otherwise, a pyramid set is going to be where you're pretty much gradually adding weight as you drop the repetitions. Pre-exhaustion is an advanced technique of what we call pre-exhausting the muscle prior to working it. For example, you might do an isolation exercise prior to a compound movement. You might do chest flies prior to doing bench presses. You might pre-exhaust your triceps prior to doing bench presses to say that you have dominant triceps and you don't want them to be utilized that much in the bench press. If you go ahead and do your tricep routine first and then do a chest exercise afterwards, your triceps can't really help anymore. Then your chest is going to have to work harder. So that would be a couple examples of pre-exhaustion. Circuit training is just going to be your typical, you're going around from one machine to the next, pretty much a full body workout. Generally probably going to be a low rest. You'll see a lot of these clubs that have these that are set up where they just kind of beep and they go on to the next thing, and that's real popular with circuit training. The only problem with circuit training is it's not specific to the person. It's more of a one-size-fits-all type of deal. And you're going to run into the whole idea that you never really change anything because you're doing the exact same workout every single time, other than the fact that you might change how many reps you do, how much weight you do, and things like that. But you're using the exact same angles, the exact same machines if you're going in a facility that does that. And those might be a good way to start people, and some people might start out that way. But it's not something that you're typically going to train a person to do beyond a certain amount of time because it's kind of redundant. A partial routine is referring to a partial rep range routine. Let's say that you do a full range of motion, and then on the bench press you were touching your chest going all the way up. Then you might do a few short ones right there at the strongest rep range. We call it just the last little lockout portion of it. There's different kinds of techniques. So you might do, like if you're doing curls and you run out of steam, then you just do a few short ones right there on the end of it on the concentric phase. And what we call our strongest rep range is that last little portion of when we actually have the cross bridge or the concentric contraction. Forced repetitions is exactly what it sounds like. You basically are forcing that person to do a few more repetitions after they've physically not been able to do any more on their own. So you might apply just enough force, maybe 5 to 20% of the help, to allow them to do maybe 1 or 2 more repetitions. It's a way to kind of continue the set, increase the intensity, and maybe eventually you only have to help them in part of the movement. Eccentric training is what I referred to earlier as negatives. That would be when you take maybe a certain amount of weight and you lower it very, very slowly, fighting the resistance. Person might help you bring it back up and lower it again like if you're doing a bench press. It's a very, very dangerous type of training, and you need to be very, very careful, and you don't want to implement it all the time because it does quite a bit of skeletal muscle trauma.